you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another episode of All About Mechanics. Now the Dungeon 1 versions are all done now, so we're now moving on to the more neutral dungeons, to the ones that don't have two versions of them, so some of the harder content, and then of course we're going to be pushing to version 2s and DLCs later on. Now the first one in this section of the series is Arx Corinium. We're going to go in there on Vet, we're going to get it done on hard mode, and we're going to use the same setup as we did before. One tank, one healer, one mag DPS, and one stam DPS. Hopefully after this is finished you'll have a better idea of how to approach a dungeon, and you'll understand the mechanics of each individual boss fight. So here we go. Okay, when you first come in you are greeted with a very common enemy that you'll see a lot of in here, and these are the Lamias. Now there are several different versions of them. The main ones you need to keep an eye on are of course the red ones, because they have a habit of screaming and stunning you, but there's several different ones that have interruptible effect, so make sure that you're on your interrupts quite a lot. Let the tank pull them into the middle and kind of burn them down with as much area of effect damage as possible, not necessarily focusing on any individual, just make sure you kind of kill them all together. You also need to pay attention to the snakes, because they can coil up and start healing, so make sure you interrupt those. And if any of these enemies throw out a conal effect that can be blocked, then you've got two options: you either block it or get out of it, and hopefully the tank is aiming it in their direction anyway. Same goes for the lurchers, make sure you interrupt them and stay out of their face. Now there's a lurcher just here, make sure you kill him as well. And when you go into the dungeon itself, you kind of go down the ramp, which we're now coming up to. There's a lot of small pulls where there's like 3 or 4 Lamias together, which isn't too bad to manage, especially if your tank can grab them early on, kind of claw them up and taunt them away from you so they're not facing you, specifically as the DPS and the healers. But you do need to make sure that you pay attention to interrupts again. There's a lot of things to interrupt, and if you don't do it, you are going to get in trouble. Again, make sure you interrupt those red ones, stay out of the heavy attack AoEs, and you should be just fine. There's lots and lots of things that need interrupted, and if you don't, they're going to stun you, and you don't want to be stunned because you normally get smacked about while you're on the ground. Same again, pull here, make sure you interrupt everything. Tank should be pulling everything into the center. Keep up as much area of effect damage as possible, while your tank should be focusing on keeping the AoEs away from the DPS's faces. Now this first boss is very, very simple. What you need to do is make sure that you stay away from the big AoE circle. Basically, if you stand in that big AoE, the damage that is done to you is going to heal the boss, and it can heal really, really fast. So make sure your tank pulls all the Lamias to one side, hold them all facing away from the group, and make sure that your group, your DPS, your tank, and your healer stays on those interrupts, because you don't want to get stunned. It's really, really problematic if they overwhelm you. So hold them all together, do as much AoE damage as possible while interrupting them. Again, I can't stress enough, you've got to stay out of that big circle. If you do get inside there, even for a second or so, that boss is going to heal so fast you're going to have to just start the fight again, basically. Again, also there's another point to mention, just like the other snakes, there's a rather nasty frontal area of effect, kind of heavy attack, kind of like a cleave effect, but make sure if you're a DPS or a healer that you stay out of that. You don't want to get caught by it. The tank should turn it away from the group, and you should be able to kill him from either behind or by the side of the snake. Don't actually enter the fight in front of him, because it will really, really hurt. Okay, so he's fairly straightforward. Now, the next pull is just like the rest of them, to be honest. You've got a few Lamias, a couple of snakes, and again, make sure your tank pulls them into the middle, keep your buffs up, and of course, keep on those interrupts. They have some nasty, nasty area of effect, kind of heavy attacks and screams and stuff that will stun you, and knockbacks as well, so make sure you stay on those interrupts again, and do as much area of effect damage as you possibly can. Don't necessarily focus on anything in particular, but do make sure that you bash them if they do anything stupid. You get a few pulls like that. They're quite busy, but they don't do a huge amount of damage. This one here, very, very short. Watch out for that red one because it screams, and also watch out for the one on the left because that does as well. Now the spirit that comes out of the Lamia at the back there, you can actually kill the ghost that comes out, but you don't actually have to. If you kill the caster, the ghost will disappear. See that big tail swipe there? Just don't stand in front of it. Keep on the interrupts as usual. Make sure the tank pulls everything into the center. It's very, very straightforward. Single snake on his own, he's not really that challenging. Keep on the interrupts, stay out of the AoE. Job's done. Can't see, bushes in the way. Now this boss can be problematic if the tank doesn't keep it still. Lots of lightning damage, a couple of nasty effects. Do not stand in front of his face. Get in a kind of a triangle formation with your 2 DPS and a healer, so everyone's got their own space. stay out of that area of effect, the front of it. Even the tank can move out of that. Nasty, nasty lightning dot. You don't want to get caught by it. Then he will do direct damage, kind of lightning showers from above, which you just saw. Just stay in the heals, you should be just fine. If you really have to, put on a damage shield or block, but you should be okay as long as you stay in the heals. That AoE effect that you just saw aiming at Christina, that is actually random. It'll hit any target that he decides, which is why you stay in a triangle formation, because then you can tell which one he's going to aim at. As soon as he aims at you, just dodge roll out of the way and you should be fine. He'll go back to normal. Just repeating his mechanics over and over. Lightning showers, big lightning breath type thing at the tank, and then he'll throw another AoE out again. Fairly simple stuff. He doesn't have a lot of health. He doesn't hit too hard, but do not stand in his face. That part does hurt. Again, we're going to be greeted by many, many ads. Just like before, the pulls are fairly large. You just have to make sure you stay on those interrupts. So Waterfall, you do have to jump, watch the rock on the way down, because you can kill yourself. Just make sure you actually land in the water, otherwise you're toast. Another lurcher over here. You did see one of these at the beginning of the dungeon. Same applies. Just make sure you interrupt the nasty stuff and keep him still and aimed away from the group. This part, you have to watch out for the red ones because they do scream in your face quite a lot. Make sure you interrupt them as soon as possible, especially the ones at the back. Your tank's got plenty of time to pull them in, but in the meantime, just keep on the interrupts. Everything in this dungeon, within reason, can normally be stopped from doing nasty stuff. See, that one can be interrupted, and so can the one over there. Just keep your eyes peeled at all times. Don't expect the tank to bash everything because that's not really fair. Make sure everybody is alert. This guy here you can't really see very well because there's loads of trees in the way. But again, he has a couple of nasty heavy attacks which you don't want to be standing in front of. Interrupt that. Problem solved. Another waterfall. Again, be careful not to hit the rocks because if you do, you'll die. Not that one. The one at the edge. Yeah, they nearly fell on it. Relatively simple pull. Get your tank to put everything into the middle. Again, another nasty ad pull. Interrupt anything that does stupid stuff. So the red one and the grey one or green one there. Make sure you interrupt them all the time. Nasty stuns, nasty AoE damage. It's not huge, but when you've got lots of them all at once, it can be a bit of a pain. Especially if you've not got enough stamina left to break free after you've been stunned a few too many times. Stay out of that. You can block it, but it's just so much safer to just stay out of it. Stay on the interrupts. Jobs are getting. Simple stuff. Like I said, it can get messy, but just be really careful. Stay out of their face. Stay on the interrupts. Do not run around the room. You run around the room, they'll chase you around the room. And if they catch you, they'll kill you. Running around the room becomes a problem for the tank because the tank can't control the room, and you really need to make sure that he or she can. Okay, now we go off to the right here. We already know how to deal with lurchers. Stay out of their face. Tank should spin it around and everybody else beat on it. But make sure you interrupt it. Same applies to the ads that are now in. You can pin them all together, turn them away from the group, and make sure you interrupt. Key. You'll notice that the group is not running around in circles. We're kind of finding our feet, getting our stuff done, and then moving out again. It's very, very simple stuff. Now this boss, after these ad pulls, has one major, very, very obvious mechanic that a lot of people get wrong. There's two targets. In fact, one of them isn't a target, so be careful. You want to kill the boss, of course, but do not kill the snake. Your AoE may be high enough to kill it, so you might kill it by accident, but try not to. Basically, she's got a couple of nasty heavy attacks and a scream, which should be the tank's problem, not yours. If it does hit the DPS or the healers, you do need to block it or get out of it. But basically, the tank should move it to one side. You can see that the boss is tilted to the left, so it's way out of our face. Now, that snake will put up a bubble, a protection bubble, and she will scream her face off. Now, if you are a very experienced group, this isn't going to be a problem for you. But if you are not, or you're lacking CPs to give yourself a decent amount of resists, this scream will kill you. If you stay in the bubble, you take no damage. Don't kill the snake, just damage her from inside here and stay in the bubble. The bubble comes from the snake. So when she runs and starts screaming, the snake will dart across the room. You need to see where he is and run straight into there as soon as possible. Then once the scream is finished, all you have to do is come back and finish the boss off. Now, of course, this group has got a decent amount of damage, so the fight is quite fast. But if you don't have a lot of damage and your group does struggle with overall DPS, don't worry. The mechanics, just like everything else, can just be followed indefinitely, and it's just a matter of time as to when you kill her. As long as you don't kill that snake, she'll put a bubble up every few seconds. You'll be just fine. Also, that little button that we just pressed on the floor there, that is very important. Make sure you don't miss it, otherwise you're going to have to come running back. That actually releases the drawbridge that we're now going to cross in a moment. Don't forget the backpacks. Still haven't found my Imperial motif. Been trying for it. I've got one, but I haven't physically found one. So, who knows? Got to check the bags. Same pull as normal here. Put everything into the center. As you can see, the tank has got everything really, really controlled. Stay out of the heavy attacks and block if you get caught. And again, interrupt everything that you can. Don't just leave it to the tank. It's not just their job to interrupt. It's everybody's. Everybody can do it. This boss is relatively simple. Hold the boss in the center and turn her around, if you can, as the tank. And pull in all of the adds. And do the same as you did for every add pull so far. Interrupt them, stay out of their face. And if you get caught by a heavy attack, make sure that you're blocking it or dodge rolling out of it. I mean, it's quite long. They've got a really big delay on their ability, so you shouldn't get caught too often. But if you are stuck and you know it's kind of last second, you might get caught, you might not. Make sure you either dodge roll or block. Now this boss has a nasty mechanic where she fires a rather large AoE onto the ground at whichever target she decides. And it's actually a double AoE. There's a very small circle and there's a very large circle, as you can see there. Now, it knocks the tank down, or it knocks anyone down who hits them. But if it hits a DPS and you haven't got enough damage shields or heals running in and out of the area, you will die. As you can see, that went through my damage shield. Quite a lot of it, actually. If you're on that outer circle, you'll be fine. You will take a lot of damage, but you won't die. If you're on the inner circle, it can one-shot a squishy DPS or a healer. So be very, very careful. Even as a tank, if you are not packing too much health and you're a little bit worried, don't stand in the middle of this tiny circle, because that's the danger zone. The second one, like I said, is not too bad. Just dodge roll out of it, get back in. You'll notice again, we're not running around the room in circles. Just get out, get back in again. Get out, get back in again. Very, very simple. Snake on his own, we've seen these before. Stay out of the AoE, interrupt them if they try and heal, and just continue to do your DPS to get it down. The snakes aren't a problem if you stay out of their face. Again, another pull, not too many here. Stay on the interrupts. Very, very simple stuff. Obviously, there's a big heavy attack, so if you are the tank, keep an eye on those. You don't want to be knocked over, because if you are knocked over, you'll fly across the room, and that makes things really difficult, because the enemies obviously leave the damage on the ground, and people have to keep reapplying skills unnecessarily. Stay out of their faces. Stay on the interrupts. I know it's too obvious, but there's a lot of stuff in here that requires interrupting. It's very mechanic based. You've got to interact physically with the targets rather than just throw down dots and kill them. This little mini boss here is a little bit of a pain. I mean, he shouldn't cause too much of a problem even on a pickup, but you do have to stay out of his face. You do have to pull all the adds in and make sure you get rid of them as quick as possible while staying on interrupts. As you can see, that Lammy there screaming his face off. Now, this boss can also be interrupted. He does have a nasty heavy attack and a kind of a backhand slam, but then he also can damage one person of his choosing at random, and he will drain them. So he'll do damage to them and he'll heal himself. So you have to be very, very careful not to be overwhelmed by this. Make sure your healers are on point, and of course, if you need a damage shield, then put one on. You can see he's trying to drain me there. Don't let that get you for too long. Make sure you're either blocking or shielding or getting some heals. If you're not getting any of those, you're probably going to take quite a bit of damage, so just be really careful. Make sure your healers are on point, or at least make sure if you're a stamina, you've got a shield, a vigor, sorry, and if you're a magical, make sure you've got a shield. Standard pull, small lurcher, who can be interrupted. The rest can all be interrupted. Basic stuff again. There you go, bash him. Tank is already on it, good stuff. Nice and quick. Again, all of this is mechanic based. You don't have to have loads and loads of DPS to burn stuff down. It's not relevant at all. Is it fun? Yeah, of course. But do you need it? No. Everything has its base mechanics. You can interrupt it. It'll eventually try and do something again. You can interrupt it again. It's got a heavy attack. You block it. It'll do it again in a little while. Doesn't matter how long you take on the fights, as long as you keep sticking to those mechanics and don't sprint around the room like a moron. There's your hard mode button. Make sure you press that. Now this fight is very, very easy, but a lot of people don't understand how to do it. Now I know there's a cheese where you can kind of stick her in the corner, but you honestly don't need to do that at all. She will throw out a random attack at a random player occasionally, which has nothing to do with the tanks. So don't start screaming at them saying you took your taunt off. They haven't. Just pay attention to what's going on. Get yourself in a little formation, again the triangle formation with the 2 DPS and the healer if you can. Get a tank to turn her away from the group so he can block her heavy attacks and screams. So be careful. Now, you can see that she's going to hit the healer there and then turn around again. That will happen. She does that randomly. Then she'll raise her hands and put a nasty AoE on the ground. Very simple. Get out of it. So fight her on this island and get out of it. Get into the water. Now, as soon as this is finished, get back on that island and get out of the water. Don't stand in her face when she screams either. And all you have to do is keep repeating this. This is all about footwork. Don't run around the room mindless. Just fight her here. Block if she throws an attack at you. Stay out of her face. And when she puts her hands up, wherever the AoEs land, get out of it. And when they're gone, get back where you were. It's very important that you get back where you were. Now, if she throws the AoEs in the water, by the way, get out of the water. But if you position yourself like this, you'll never have to do that and everything will be fine. There's the AoE, get out of it. She can electrify the water, that's why you pin her on the platform. Now the AoE is gone, get back in again. Get out of the water. Now, also consider that she does have a fair amount of health, but she also constantly puts a damage shield on herself, which means you can't crit her with direct attacks or anything like that because she has a damage shield. You can't crit a damage shield, which is quite funny because the Medusa set that drops from her is actually about crit damage, which is slightly ironic, but what can you do? You see that she's going to hit me there, just block it and carry on. Hitting the tank constantly, couple of screams, arms in the air, AoE, get out. Everybody get out. Don't run around the room. Just get out of the AoE. Keep your damage going. Very, very simple. When she's finished having her fit, get back in again. Always get back to your position. She's a very, very simple boss if you understand her. If you don't, you're going to run around in circles. She's going to throw AoEs in the water. She's going to electrify all the water and everybody's going to die. Like I said, there is a bit of a cheese where the, if you look over Christina and Stig's shoulder, there's a grey platform of ground, if you like, on the floor, a grey area. You can actually just pin her over there, but it's not necessary. I'd prefer it if people understood the mechanics, of course, just in case something like that ever gets fixed, in which case you'll know what to do. Get out of the AoEs. When it's gone, get back in. Really, really simple stuff. Okay, so hopefully that helped, hopefully that wasn't too boring, and hopefully you now have a better understanding of how to tackle that particular dungeon. The next dungeon is actually going to be Dire Frost. I can hear people screaming break free, and if you don't know what that means, you're going to find out in the next video. So, first of all, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support, and if you are not subscribing, please do hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, of course, I do have a sponsorship button on YouTube where you can support the channel, actually, on a monthly basis, just like you can by subscribing on Twitch, except it's a YouTube alternative. Also, I have links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website xynodegaming.com. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.